Within this section, we're going to set our computers up for writing Python code. And we're going to do that on our physical machines, on our host machines. Later on, we're going to see how to write codes on virtual machines like Kali Linux or Windows Virtual Machine as well. But for right now, we're going to start by installing a tool called Anaconda on Windows or Mac. So now if you're ready, let's get started, and this section will be a short one because we're only going to install the tool and see the general overview, general layout of the tool, then we will move on to the next section.
Hi! First of all, we're going to make sure that our computer is able to work with Python. So I'm going to open my browser here and search for a software to download, and we're going to write our code in that software. And this is called Anaconda. So the website that we're going to go into is actually called anaconda.com. And this will be the first result that you see on Google or Bing. So click on Downloads Anaconda, and it will let you a website in which you can find the latest version and download it onto your computer. So this is how it looks. Of course, in time, these images or general outline should be changed, but it doesn't matter. You can find the download section in anaconda.com. And if you click on download now, it will lead you to this site where you will find the latest version. Of course, you will see two different versions at this time. One is Python 3 and the other one is Python 2. And we're going to work with the latest version, which is Python 3. And Python 3.7 or 8 or 9, it really doesn't matter as long as it's Python 3. So I'm going to download this Python 3.7 version and save it to my computer. Of course, I did that before in order not to make you wait, but you can pause and wait until the download is finished. So I'm going to go over my downloads folder, or you should go to wherever you save this file and find the download file. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm going to close this before we don't need this anymore. I'm going to double click on the setup file and open Anaconda. So I'm going to say run, and let me make this go away, and this will be a classical setup where you click next, next, next and install. So just click next and just select the first option here, and after that you have to choose wherever you want to download or install these files. The default is okay, and in here there are two options unchecked. The first one lets you to add Anaconda to system variables. So if you're a Windows user, you have to check this. Even though it doesn't recommend you, it recommends you to manually add this to path variables, but we're just gonna check this and let it work for ourselves. And the second is okay to check as well. It will let us to open Python codes default in Anaconda. So after checking these two options, I'm going to say install, and it will start installing. It may take some time, so feel free to pause the video and of course meet me afterwards. So it's actually finished for me. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna click next here, and it asks me if I want to install Visual Studio. I don't need this at this point, so I can just skip this. And at last it asks me if I want guidance. I don't need any guidance. I will show you how to do and set up Anaconda, so I'm going to say finish. So Anaconda is now in my computer. So if I type Anaconda here, it should bring up Anaconda Navigator. Okay, so please find it on your computer and click on it. It will open Anaconda for the first time. So when you open for the first time, you can just click here and see some different modules. What I'm interested in is Jupyter thing. So it will give me something called Jupyter Notebook. And within this notebook, I can write Python code and see the output immediately, which lets us to work and see the results immediately, and so we can learn faster when we deal with the basics, the fundamentals of the Python. So it brings us a dashboard where you will see the folders and files in your computer. So let me zoom in a little bit so you can see it better. As you can see, it says files, and I see the folders in my own computer here. So if I have a notebook file, I can click from here and open it. But at this point, I don't have any notebook file, so I'm going to click new here and choose Python. So it will create a new Python notebook for me, in which we will write our first Python code. So this is how it looks. This is a standard Python notebook in which we can write our Python code. And there are some options here, as you can see. If you choose code, you can just write Python code like print, and print method, print function, print something. It's very simple. And the first program that everybody writes when learning a programming language is hello world. Okay, so choose a quotation mark from your keyboard, like double quotation or single quotation, it really doesn't matter, and write hello world inside this print function. And after that, you need to run this code by clicking this button here, and it gives the output of hello world. So congratulations, you have just written your first Python code. So what can we do besides writing Python code in Jupyter Notebook? If you choose code markdown rather than code in here, you can write notes to yourself. Like you can take notes while listening and learning the Python, like note hello world program, for example. And if you hit run again, it won't run any code because there isn't any code. This is just a note, a comment in your notebook. Let's run another command in here, say print, and this time rather than hello world, I will say hello 2. And if I hit run, it will give me the output of hello 2. Okay? So this is actually how it works. We write some code and we see the output of that code immediately in here. And if you're dealing with the programming for the first time in your life, it may sound confusing, but this is how it works. You write some code, computer actually works this code, runs this code, and gets an output and displays it to you. Like you may have said, just go to the internet and download some stuff and show it to me. It is the same thing as printing out hello world in theory, for instance. So other than that, you have to get familiarized with the keyboard shortcuts. In order to do that, just click help here and select keyboard shortcuts. And as you can see, there are a lot of keyboard shortcuts in here, but the one that we're going to use most is Shift Enter. Rather than clicking run in here, you can just press Shift Enter in your keyboard. Let's do that with print again, and let's print James this time rather than hello. and if I hit enter, it will just create a new line. Of course, I can write more than one line, okay? But I don't want to create a new line. I want to run this code, and not by clicking here. So if I press shift enter, it will just run this code for me. Like if I had clicked on the run button, it would have done the same thing. Of course, there are other keyboard shortcuts as well, and I suggest you to go over it and see if there is specific necessary thing for you. Suppose you're done with your notebook and you want to save it. If you come here, this untitled thing, this is the title of your notebook, and you may change it anytime you want. So let's call this Hello World and click rename here. So my notebook is called Hello World, and if I go to file here, I can save this or make a copy and later on open it and edit it again. So if I want to save it, I just click save and checkpoint, and here I can see the last checkpoint, last saved time, date in here. And of course I can save this as another file as well. Now I have saved it, okay? So if I close it, then I can open it again at the same state. So let's close this, and we can see the hello world at the bottom in here, but let's suppose that I want to move this file to another place. So what do? I open the search box and search for hello world to see the original folder that is saved, and as you can see, this is saved under users, i.e. user, so my username. This is saved in a folder. If I right click it and say go to the location, it will take me to the location. Let's suppose I want to create a new folder in my desktop and save every notebook in that folder, like notebook projects or whatever you want. So let's take this and move it to the newly created folder. Later on, let's go back to our Jupyter notebook. It's actually open in my browser here. As you can see, this is vanished from here. Now I have to go to the desktop and Python notebook, and then I can see the hello world IP NYB. So if I click it, it will open as the same. We're going to deal with Jupyter notebooks for a long time. Since we're going to learn how to write Python code, you may encounter some problems with the notebooks. Of course, you can close the Jupyter notebook and Anaconda and restart it, and it will solve the major of the problems. But also you can go here to kernel and click it and say interrupt. It will stop the working process, and then you can say restart. So we are done here. Within the next lecture we're going to do the same thing but in a Mac, so if you're on Windows you may just skip it. Hi, so first of all we're going to make sure that our Mac is going to be running Python code, and we have a proper software that we can work and learn how to write Python code. In order to do that, what we're gonna do, we're gonna go to the internet and download some program called Anaconda. Okay, so just go to Google or another search engine and write Anaconda. Okay, so what you want to go is actually anaconda.com. It's pretty simple, but it will be the first result of Google anyway. So I want to go to Anaconda and I want to go to the download section. So this general outlay, general pictures may change in time, but every time you can find a download section. So just say download now and it will lead you the download website. So under here, make sure the Mac OS is chosen for you, and you have two options in here, which is one Phyton 3 and Phyton 2. Of course, we're going to go with Phyton 3 since it is the current version. And don't worry about the 3.7, 3.8, or 9. As long as it's Phyton 3, it's okay to download. So choose the Phyton 3.7 and start downloading. Of course, I did that before. I already downloaded it in order not to make you wait. So I'm going to cancel this and open my downloads, and feel free to pause the video and meet me afterwards it's done. So what I'm gonna do, I'm going to find this downloaded package in here, and let me just make it into the desktop so you can see it better. Just double click on it and it will pop open a installer for me, and I will say continue. And this is a classical installer where you just click continue and install, okay, and accept the license and everything, say agree, and finally click install. If it asks a permission, of course give it via fingerprint or typing your password. It will take some time to install all the packages, all the libraries and stuff. So feel free to pause the video again and meet me after it's finished. So it's finished for me, and it asks if I want to install the Visual Studio. I don't need it at this point, so I'm going to say skip it. And it says installation failed, but this is because I have already installed it on my computer. So I'm going to say finish. Don't worry, yours will be just fine. And after that, I don't need this package anymore, but let me check if Anaconda is installed. So I'm going to Launchpad and try to find Anaconda, but if you cannot find it, just hit space and command on your keyboard, which brings the search bar, and you can just type Anaconda Navigator in here. And if you double click it, it will pop open the Anaconda for you. And if you're opening it for the first time, it may just take some time to initialize, and now we can move this to trash since we don't need this anymore. So here it is. Let me make this into a full screen, and you see there are a lot of widgets in here, but what we are interested in is actually this Jupyter notebook. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna click launch in here, which will bring a terminal and opens a Safari or a browser, and it just runs this on a local host. This is not connected to internet, don't worry. You can just reach it from your browser, and you can see the files and folders in here. So let me zoom in a little bit so you can see it better. So there are actually files and folders in here, so you can browse it as if it is your own computer, but we don't have any notebooks right now. So if we had, we would have then clicked on it and just open it. But since we don't have this, I'm going to say new from here and choose a Phyton notebook. So this is our first Phyton notebook. Let me zoom in again so you can see it better. Okay. Now these lines here are called cells, and we write our Python codes in these lines. So make sure the code is selected from here, and we will see the other options later on. Let's write our first Python code. So as usual, we're going to print hello world. So if you just type print, it's a built-in function that lets you print something. So you have to open a quotation mark from your keyboard, whether it's single or double, it doesn't matter, and you have to write your string, your text inside this quotation marks like hello world. After you write your code, if you just hit run, it will execute your code, it will run your code and show you the output of your code. So congratulations, you have just written your first Python code, which is hello world. So we managed to write it, and at this now let's see what else we can do within Jupyter Notebooks other than writing code. So if I choose Markdown from here, I can write notes to myself. So when you're listening, you can just take notes here like note, hello world program, for instance. Okay, and if you click run, it won't run any code because this isn't a code, this is just a comment, this is just a note. So let's write another code and say hello 2 this time and hit it. As you can see, it gives an output again. So at this point you may think to yourself, why are we writing this? Why are we seeing some outputs? Why are we writing print? And if you're dealing the programming for the first time, it is very normal for you to get confused. But this is how it works. We write something, the computer actually runs this code, executes this code, and show the output to us. And in Jupyter Notebooks, we see the output immediately, so we will use it when first we deal with the Python fundamentals, Python basics. So if you go to help here and click on keyboard shortcuts, you can see some very effective ways of shortcutting things like shift enter. Instead of clicking run in here, let's write print James this time, and rather than clicking run, I will just press shift enter and it will execute the code for me as well. Let's do another example like print Lars, and this time I hit enter rather than shift enter. It will create a new line for me rather than executing the code. But I don't want that, I want to shift enter and it will execute and show the output for me. And suppose you're done with your notebook and you want to save the notebook. How do you do it? So you have this untitled here. Okay, so this is the title of your notebook. If you click on it, you may like hello world, you may say hello world in here or whatever you want, and just click the rename after it. So it changes the title of your notebook. And if you go to file from menu in here, you may choose save and checkpoint. It will save it for you. Of course, you can make copy or save as the file, and you may open another notebook from here, but make sure that you save and checkpoint your file before you close it. Now if I close it, I will see it in here. If I click on it, it will open again. But let's suppose I want to just take this hello world notebook from here and put it in another place. So let's try and find my hello world notebook. Okay, so it's already placed in my user folder. So what I'm going to do, I can just bring the search bar again by pressing command and space and search for hello world. It will show me where it's located, right? So let's go to my user folder by using Finder. Let's click on the Finder and let's go to my user folder where I will see the notebook. So what if I want to move this notebook to another folder, for instance? I can create a new folder from here and call it Python Notebooks, for example, in order to be tidy and neat, and move every notebook that I have created in that folder. If I do this, now it's located in here. Let's close this and go back to our browser. Now it's vanished from here, but we see some other folder which is Python Notebooks, and we see the hello world from here. So this is how you close, save and open the Python Notebooks. At any point, if you experience any problems, you may want to go here to kernel and interrupt it and then restart it, and it will solve the majority of the problems. And if it doesn't solve, of course you can always close everything together like Anaconda browser and open it again. So we're done here. Let's stop here, and within the next lecture we're going to learn the first Python codes.
Hi, since now you completed your computer setup for Python writing, now you're ready to move into the Python world. We're going to start with the basics, and then we're going to adapt what we have learned into ethical hacking tools in the following sections. Now if you're ready, let's meet on the new section to get started.